go beyond, baby.
Why not?
Why not? All right. I'm Justin Franson here with Matt Furbringer, the Golden God, aka Furby as well, for those of us who know him. One of the most decorated pro beach volleyball players in the history of volleyball. He is an 8-time winner on the AVP Tour, has half a dozen plus medals from FIVB and World Championship medals as well. He runs a Team Rockstar club team. His wife Joy runs a women's team in Long Beach, club volleyball in high school level, and he is also the assistant men's volleyball coach at USA Men's Volleyball, the Olympic volleyball team that just won a bronze medal in Brazil. So, Matt.
What's up, buddy?
So good to see you.
Thanks, man. You too.
Matt's one of our longtime friends. He's a client. We worked with him for many years throughout his many of his wins on the AVP Tour.
You did.
And so I want you to take us back, Matt. Take us back to, let's go back to Stanford. I mean, you played at Stanford, All-American, 4-time, and NCAA championship. Let's go back to Stanford, your indoor days, your winning career there, and then the success you've had and how it brought you to where you are today, to the beach, and then now you're indoor coaching the best players in the world. So talk about going back to Stanford, how you actually made that transition to the beach.
Well, Justin, it's great to see you. And now when we say take it back, we can take it back a long time. So
Yes.
I'm glad you stated when to start. So I actually grew up a basketball player, as you know. And just played volleyball with a couple friends every once in a while, and for some reason people thought I was good at volleyball. So I started getting attention for it, and eventually got recruited for it, and I ended up getting a scholarship offer to play volleyball at Stanford. And my choices came down to choosing, did I want to play basketball at, say, a WCC school, or did I want to play volleyball at Stanford? After going on my recruiting trip, I realized that Stanford's where I wanted to be. And my goal, the reason I'm bringing this part up of it is my goal was I wanted to win a national championship. And for me, the schools in basketball that were recruiting me were great schools. I really liked them, but they weren't going to win a national title. And Stanford, I got recruited with Mike Lambert, who's a 2-time Olympian. Great, yeah, unbelievable athlete. And we were coming in together, and I thought with Mike, we could win a national title. So that was my goal, and that's why I switched. And so that just became a really big decision for me that changed my life forever. Because in basketball, I could have played in college. I'm not sure how much longer after that I could have played. And volleyball allowed me to play professionally until I was 38 years old. So it was the best decision that I ever made, and really just a real pivotal moment in my life when I choose, and I can always look back at the choices I chose, kind of people that I really liked at Stanford, and I chose wanting to win versus my sport that I really loved growing up was basketball. And since then, I feel like I've always kind of made those choices, always wanting to go somewhere where I feel like I'm really goal-oriented person, and I like to do things well, and so I'm always choosing things where I feel like, man, I can go and I can really be good at that. And I love that journey of chasing that dream and the lessons you learn on that journey.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
How did you jump into the beach world? Where did that transition come, and how did you never end up playing with Mike? I know you guys are similar though. But.
Yeah, well, I think the transition comes pretty easily. I mean, beach volleyball and indoor volleyball are different, but they're the same sport, basically. It's two guys. It takes a different type of athlete, but, the fundamentals are there. When I was in college and I had my summers, I would just play beach and stay in shape, and I would work with weight tables at night and play volleyball all day. And I fell in love with the sport, and I started getting really quite good at it. And I'd had some really bad shoulder injuries when I was in college, and the thought of doing that for much longer was a little bit frightening to me. I thought the indoor game, for those of you guys that don't know the indoor game, there's not much finesse in that game. It's a really power game. It's a beautiful game to watch. It's really fast and athletic. And the national team, if you got to see us this year at the Olympics and you saw those guys, how powerful and dynamic they are, it's really impressive. On the beach, you still need all that power and the dynamic stuff, but you're able, because there's only 2 guys on the court, to not always hit the ball as hard as you need, hard as you can every time. And you have the sand, it's a little bit softer to land on. So it becomes actually more of a endurance and mental game than the indoor, but less a little bit of just straight power, and that puts a lot of stress on my shoulder. So I kind of started making that transition then. I decided to go overseas anyways and make some money and get to live in Europe and learn a lot of cool stuff living in Spain and Austria and in Greece. But I was working kind of behind the scenes at getting my beach game ready, and so when it was time to make that transition, I was able to make it successfully.
Awesome. Now, Matt and I met years ago, and through Dr. Tim Brown, who's also a speaker on Go Beyond Summit, Tim introduced us, and I was Matt's performance coach for many years. And so Matt, let's go back to those days where we're just doing all the training indoor on basketball courts, on sand and grass parks. Like, just go back to the training, just shed some light for everybody. Let them know what you're doing behind the scenes as a professional athlete, winning tournaments on the AVP with some of the most, to me, volleyball is probably some of the best athletes in the world, because you're barefoot, jumping over net, everything's overhead. And it's just unbelievable reflexes, strength, coordination, finesse, touch. I mean, you have everything going on in it. So share a lot about the behind the scenes in volleyball and preparation, and some of your team that you use to help facilitate getting you to where you were.
Yeah, well, through all my years of being an athlete, doing all this stuff, I think the one message I would share is just hard work. And that's what we did, Justin. We worked hard, and Justin helped me work hard, but you also got to work hard, and you got to work smart, and you got to understand what it takes to do, because there's only so many hours a day, and especially for an athlete, there's only so many hours in a day you have where you can tax your body. Right. So you want to tax your body in the right ways. So what I did is I built a team around me. First of all, I picked an amazing partner. I had 2 great partners in my life, Casey Jennings and Nick Lucena, on the beach to play with. And then I picked people off the sand who were going to be my behind-the-scenes people that were going to get me to the best state. So I had Justin getting my body in peak physical condition, knowing, so when I took the court, I knew that no one was outworking me and no one was doing it in a more dynamic way and a smarter way. So we went over everything, right? It wasn't just, how hard we're working out, but how were we resting, how were we recovering, what kind of stretching were we doing, what kind of mental stuff were we doing? So we were maximizing, squeezing every ounce of juice out of what I could do, and that's the part that I really enjoy. And that's what I love about coaching the national team now, is that you're coaching the best athletes, and you're looking like, what can I get this guy? I mean, when I'm coaching, Matt Anderson is one of the best players in the world. Like, he's already one of the best players in the world. But man, we are fighting for that. Like, how can we get that 1% better?
Exactly.
And that's a really fun journey to be on. And I just think, the keys for that for me is you got to be willing to work. No matter how talented you are, it's the work you put in. You got to be self-aware so that you can be aware that you always can get better no matter how well you're playing, and be aware of that. And then you just got to surround yourself with successful people that are on that same mission as you. So, if you're not surrounding yourself with the right people, no one's ever going to do it. And that's why as a pro athlete on beach, I was able to choose people. And that's why sometimes I feel sorry for pro athletes to get drafted to a team that doesn't have, where they're forced to have the physical trainer that's on the team, the weight coach that's on the team, all this stuff, a coach. And you look at some quarterback coming into a situation, and you look at Tom Brady coming into what he came into. And yes, Tom Brady is amazing, but his team around him is incredible.
Right.
And so I think that's something I worked really hard for, and that's how we kind of, I had Tim helping me with stuff, and then he mentioned you, and then slowly but surely we had Kent Ewing, and we had all these different people that we built a team around that it takes to be great.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it's so fun hearing, about that whole team that we had going with you and seeing the success you had. I mean, I was one of your biggest fans. Just cheering, screaming my brains out when he's playing. It's just so much fun to see that and compete at that level and know that we have the solid team around you. And Tim Brown is just an unbelievable physician, doc, and he can just remap the whole body. Share a little bit about some of Tim's work and Ken Ewing's work.
Well, I mean, I don't even remember how old I was when I met Tim, but I grew up in Orange County, and Tim was always in Orange County. I think I met him when I was in high school, but then didn't really, just a high school athlete doing your thing, but I immediately connected with Tim, and I was maybe 10 years later, I went back and met with him again, and the thing about Tim is that he looks at your entire body and what it is that you need to do to improve and to reach that next level. And he wasn't just, the thing I really love about Tim is that he's not just going to say that he has all the answers, right? So he's going to look and say, hey man, I think this person can help you get here, and this person can help you get here, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. He's met so many amazing people. He's built his team around him too.
Yeah.
And he has people that he trusts, and so if I'm coming up like, hey man, I can help your back, or I can help your shoulder, but man, like, it's going to keep reoccurring if we don't do something more. And I have this guy Justin who can help you and get stronger and get prevent the injury, so we're not having to do all this stuff. And so that's really what the stuff I take from Tim, and I still get to go out and surf with Tim every once in a while, and I think I say like 2 words, all I do is ask him questions, right? Like, Tim, so what's going on with this? What's going on with this? And he's just, he's lived his life, just educating himself on what he does and branching out, and I feel like the guy could be a doctor in about a bunch of different fields by this point in his life.
No doubt.
So I'm really appreciative for his impact on my life, and so it's just always great to hear him and listen to him.
Yeah, and Ken?
Ooh, Ken. Yeah, man, like Ken.
Grasshopper.
Yeah, Ken's another one who really changed a lot of how I viewed the world. He took a kid, I wasn't really a kid at the time, but someone who was just pushing so hard to get what he wanted, and kind of taught me the value, and kind of taught me just the patience and allowing and seeing the world from a different lens. And a lot of the stuff that Kent brought out of me and taught to me, I share with with my kids that I coach all the time.
Definitely.
So I think Kent not only helped me get to a higher place and where I was going when I was playing, but what he's really had an impact on me was my ability to share what I learned on a journey, and the importance of what's really important to share and what's not. And so I think that that's something that I'll always be thankful for, and I still go down and see Kent, and it's always a learning experience. You think you've made progress in some areas, and you realize that you've really got a lot of work to do. So I'm just really thankful to both those guys.
Yeah, well, I remember, I think one of your first times seeing Ken, I'm like, hey, it's going to take a few days to process this treatment. Don't see him. You're like, I gotta go see him. And you went like literally like the 2 days before or something, your tournament, and it takes so long, like the first time to process it. And I probably got like a 10th place finish or something in that tournament. And then the next one you go and win. It was just like, once your body processed it, it was just like, boom, you just started just creating and winning. It was just unbelievable. So it's fun to see that whole process. And, Matt, Matt's one of the, hands down, like, if you were to ask me in the prime when I was working with like collectively so many different athletes, who's your favorite athlete, Justin? In the entire world, I would have said him. And so, because he checks off everything that you ever want in an athlete and a friend and a role model, a sportsmanship, I mean, it's just unbelievable. And you hit it on all cylinders. So it was just so fun to work with you on every level with that. And with Kent, we and Tim and our whole crew, we had we had a good trust factor. We built up. We had lots of wins. We had a great momentum going. And take us back to after your season, you went on a surf trip. And what I recall is you stepped off your board and you broke your foot. And so I got a call saying, "Hey, Just, I broke my foot. And you know, what do you recommend I do? This is the scenario that the docs are laying out." And because of you being a barefoot athlete and us having a really great support team around you, I recommended not to have surgery and to go see Kent and to start to rehab. And Kent and I were the only really two, I think, that said that. Everyone else was like, "Go get a pin in your foot, go get a pin in your foot." And you went with our route, and you ended up again placing like a top 10 the first one, and then top 3, 2-3 finish the next event with 0 repercussions. Share a little bit more about that story from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I think the background of that is that I was playing on a broken foot the entire season. So I had what's called a stress fracture. And when a stress fracture is at a certain point, it just hurts, but it doesn't, you can play on it. In beach volleyball, you only get paid for how you finish. So I don't have a contract. So I don't get to go out and rest my foot and go to 20 different great doctors and do everything I can to get better. I got to go make money to put food on the table for my family. So I played on it because I could. And because the work I was doing with Kent, a lot of other great stuff I was doing, I made it through the entire season. Then I go right afterwards to go to actually to go on a surf trip, and like on the very last wave of a session, I popped up my board, and when I popped up on the board, I just felt it. I mean, it just was, it's time, right? I'd taken it down, so that was not fun. I was deep in Mexico. I had to walk over rocks, get back to the house, get all the way back to the US, knowing that it was already broken. So I knew that it was definitely, now it was really broken. So it was basically, the bone was here. It's your 5th metatarsal, which is the outside part of your foot here. It's a bone that Kevin Durant broke. It's the bone that the Joel Embiid broke. It's a bone that a lot of taller men, I think, break. And I got to the x-ray when I got home, and it was hanging on by like, so it should be like this. It was like barely hanging on. But the fact that it was still connected is important, because when I talk to people, even the doctors that were very much wanted me to get surgery, they all said that it can heal on its own. And so after talking with Justin, talking with Kent, and Kent does a lot of work with getting blood flow into areas, opening up areas, I decided that I would rather do that than get a pin. I also went and talked with athletes that had gotten a pin in their foot and were still suffering pain in their foot. I look back at that and I'm really amazed that I made that decision, because it's pretty risky. The pin in your foot's a guarantee that it's going to heal. This way it wasn't. But like you said, it was just at that time there was a trust factor, there was a knowing that it was going to work out, and it did. And I never got a pin in the foot. I got a ton of treatment on it. I got a bone healer. And it took less time to heal than it did for the pin. I never had to get a pin taken out, and that was in 2005, and I played until 2012. I never had another problem with the bone in my foot. So yeah, it was really cool. It took a lot of faith and belief that I could do it. It took a lot of my belief, thinking that I have a part in my body healing, that I'm not just like, I need a doctor to do it. And so that's a whole other topic. But yeah,
we're going beyond.
It worked. It really worked out well, and but it was a full-time job for me getting that thing healthy. Meditation at nights. There was ice, heat, laser. There was a bone healer. There was Kent working on it, another physical therapist working on it. So it wasn't like I just said, oh man, it can heal on its own. I mean, I did a lot of work, and I was also ready to go get I would go get x-rays like every month. And so I was ready to go and do the surgery if I needed to. I had like a cutoff date, because that was right when the season ended. So I had the whole off season, and I gave myself a 2.5 month window where then I would go get the surgery. And they said even if the bone healed somewhat, the surgery would be less time to heal from. So I gave myself like 2.5 months, and actually when I went in at 2.5 months, it was like almost totally healed. So
that's
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, can you imagine having a broken bone in your foot and then walking on it the whole time, and then seeing it all heal with literally every x-rays every several weeks, and seeing the progression. I remember you coming in and going, "Hey, I just went to the doctor today," and he's like palpating your foot and bending, "Does this hurt? Does this hurt?" You're like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah.
And they were in disbelief of all the alternative methods you used, and how effective they were. So let's go back. One of our other team members that we brought in towards the latter part was a gentleman named Sensei Benny the Jet Urquidez. And just for me, it's fun to share a lot of the backdrop. And Sensei Benny's never lost a title fight, 62 straight title victories, one of the most storied kickboxers in the world. And he is a martial arts expert. He was the best kickboxer in the world when Muhammad Ali was the best boxer in the world. And so to get some extra mental toughness and to really start to look at things at a different level from a fighter's perspective, I introduced Matt to Sensei Benny. And so tell us a little bit about your experience with Benny.
That was amazing too. I just want to go back to that, like, all this is possible, or all these people that I met and all the stuff I did was because I was going after something, and I think that's so important that, I didn't win every tournament I was in. In fact, I probably, could have won a few more and didn't win a few more, but it was the journey of us going after to try to get where we wanted to get that allowed me to have all these cool experiences that I share. So it's not even the fact that, like, being the best in the world, it's just the fact that you're going after that and chasing it, and on that journey you learn a lot because you're putting yourself on the line. Like, I'm out in a finals playing live on TV. When you lose, it hurts. But that pressure then makes you want to go out and do better, and so you go out and start finding different avenues, and that's the fun part, right? So Sensei Bene is actually, he was MMA before MMA existed. He would have just dominated that sport. He was a black belt in every martial art possible, and he would actually go to different countries and fight that person at their sport. So he would go to Thailand and fight Muay Thai against their champion. He'd go to Japan and fight their like karate, the champion. And he didn't lose a title fight in 62 attempts. Sensei Ben is a really spiritual person. We did a lot of, I would do a workout with him, which is really fun to do, learning kickboxing, martial arts, and then we would do a big meditation before and a big meditation after, and including a big stretch out. So for me, it was mostly a cardio, stretching, but like you said, it was really just a mental toughness. Because to me, when I'm playing volleyball, I react sometimes when I hit a ball out. And really, it's not a big deal. If you're fighting and you drop your hand, you get hit in the face. So I'm like, how does this guy like handle those mistakes? And so that's what I asked him, like, how do you handle like walking up knowing you're about to get in a ring, and if you make a mistake, you get your ass knocked out. And basically Benny is just, he's amazing in the way he looks at the world, and it's just for him, it's having fun. He was never a guy who sweated before. He would go out and just walk out he worked his butt off, but he'd go in that ring, relax. If he got hit, there's like photos of him laughing when he got hit, and people thought he was cocky, but he was just saying, his quote to me was always like, okay, you hit me, now I've seen it, and it's never gonna happen again. So like, you got me there, nice shot, like, good job. So he'd always give credit to his fighters and say, hey man, that's a great shot, but I'm gonna come back at you now, and now you're in trouble. So I think that's kind of, one of the things I took from Benny, and just the amount of work he did, even when he was at his best, at just the power meditations and getting his mind in a place where he was able to be in that mindset and not be in the riled up mindset or I'm gonna kill you mindset. It was always like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna have fun, and I'm gonna outwork you, and whatever you do, I'm gonna come back and do it better. And if you get me this time, in my mind, it's not done yet. It will be done when I say it's done, so the next time we fight, I'm gonna get you. So if I ever lost a match, you would go, well, you just ran out of time. Like if you would have kept going, you would have beaten him eventually. And so it's just a mindset, it's a way of looking at things where you could be, man, I can't believe I lost. And he'd be like, oh, today wasn't your day, and you ran out of time, and when the time comes, you're gonna get him. And it's just it's a way that to think and to process things so that you're not crushing yourself down like some of us athletes tend to do. So when you get in those big moments and you have the opportunities that are there, you're just in a better state of mind to do them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love hearing that. You know, Sensei Benny he brings such a different perspective and view to training, thinks out of the box as we do. His wife's a shaman healer, Sarah Eaglewoman, and so she'll be speaking as well. And so we just have this amazing crew that just ends up taking people beyond and bringing them an insight and a mentality that is a winning mentality. And that's, I think, a lot of what your teams really help with. And more importantly, I mean, Matt's really done it himself. What you said is he was a seeker. You're always looking. You're like, Justin, what else? What else? What else? And you're challenging me to bring you more. And I had to pull the reins back a little bit and say, hey, look, okay, let's give you a little, absorb that, and then let's give you a little more and absorb it. Because you can't just give everybody everything at once. It'll be overload. And so there was this process that unfolded over years, and it just ended up being so fun to be a part of.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about some of the wins. I mean, you know, I've been at a lot of them. I didn't even get to see, you came back out of retirement, went with Casey Jennings, and you guys won the Manhattan Beach Open. I mean, your name's on the pier. So you've basically won all the bigs that you want to, and talk to us about your partner Casey. He's a bundle of energy, and just probably one of the most dynamic athletes in the world, and he's just phenomenal. His energy systems, like, he would bring everybody up. I mean, talk about turning a crowd. This guy would just bring it. So talk about your partnership with Casey and the wins you guys had, and then coming back and winning Manhattan Beach Open.
Yeah, Casey is a really dynamic athlete and leader and personality who, it's a big personality, and so he can take over a stadium.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, think about that. Like, that takes a lot to go and take up a stadium. Like, I could do that in bunches, like when I was feeling it, but he could do it like on his lowest moment. He still had more energy than like most people, you know. And it's funny, you hear that about a lot of great competitors, a lot of great athletes. Like a Michael Jordan, you hear he'd be gambling till out 5 in the morning, and he'd be the first one to practice the next day. Just sleep wasn't a huge part of his routine. His body was just always going. And Casey was a similar guy. He's a night owl, but the second he walked in between those lines, man, he was on fire. And not a night owl, meaning a party owl, just like he's a guy that just will stay up. Like, we'd be at a tournament in a room, hotel room, and I'd wake up like at 2 in the morning and he'd just be up.
Wow.
You know, and so it's just, just a really, just wired in a way that was really great for volleyball, for entertaining, a lot of fun to play with and play in big tournaments with. So Casey and I had we broke up from playing in 2009. In 2012, I retired. Casey called me in the summer of 2012, the end of 2012, and asked me if I'd play Manhattan Open with him. I had just taken the job with USA Volleyball as the assistant coach for the Olympic team. I was happy. I wasn't competing. I wasn't playing. I wasn't in great shape. But I had trained that winter because I didn't know what I was going to do. So I wasn't sure if I was going to play in 2013 or not. So I guess Casey called me in 2013. I wasn't sure if I was going to play. He calls and says, Matt, my guys aren't good that I'm playing with right now. They're not. They just don't have experience. They're young. They're really nice guys. They're going to be good, but my window's short here. I need to get a W. He's like, we never got to play after a breakup. We could play one more event. And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not in shape. And like most of you guys know, when you're used to working so hard at something, to go out there without really putting the work in, I was just a little bit not wanting to, I don't know, not feeling like it's not fair to him or to the sport. Right. Does that make sense?
Right.
Just to show up, just because I had points and I had the right to do it, I didn't want to just take advantage of that. But he kind of convinced me, and I was like, all right, man, let's go have some fun and let's go do this. And then I started training. Not really on the beach, but started working out in our gym here in Anaheim with USA Volleyball and just getting in the weight room and running and getting in shape. And so we got about 2 or 3 practices in before we went, which was better than I thought. And we were actually having friendlies in Anaheim with my national team. So I was playing in the day, coaching at night, and coming back and playing the next day. And you know, there was just a calm about us all weekend. We knew that it was our last chance to do this together. I think whenever you break up, so to say, in beach volleyball, it's a breakup. And I think you both look back and realize things you both could have done better for the other person and for yourself. And so we both kind of came in with the attitude to really help each other and knowing what we had to do to win. And we just were machines. I mean, we just did it. You know, we stuck to our game plan the entire time. We never wavered. We ended up beating the best team in the world at that time twice. And on the Manhattan Pier right now, our name's up there for 2013. It was the only tournament I played that year. It's the only time both our names are on there. And the thing I really get a lot of pride on is on the pier since about 2006, Phil Delhauser is on the pier. Phil Delhauser was the 2008 Olympian, probably the best big guy to ever play our game. He was just in the 2012 Olympics, 3 Olympics. But there's a lot of other names besides Phil on the pier. But every time there's another name on the pier, Phil did not play in the event. So we are the only team that's beaten Phil, I think, since 2006 in the Manhattan Open.
Wow.
And we beat him twice. We beat him in the quarters, and then we beat him again in the finals.
Wow.
So that part's really cool. So you ever walk on the Manhattan Pier, you'll see Phil and you'll see other people, but when other people are on there, they did not play. Or Phil did not play.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. To me is a huge thing for me, because that means I beat the best to do it. And so yeah, it was a crazy weekend. My kids were like a little bit older at that point. My daughter was 7, my son was 5. So they were able to somewhat remember it and share that with them. So that was really, really cool. Really cool thing to do with Casey again, you know, and something that, you know, it's actually kind of almost like a movie ending. Haven't played since.
Oh, totally.
You know, everyone's like, want to come back? I'm like, no, I think I did it right the one time. So that's good.
Yeah, you did. Well, you guys had a great partnership of the synergy. I mean, you talk about team synergy. These guys had it beyond belief. And Casey Jennings' wife, Carrie Walsh, was one of the best women's player ever. And we're talking this elite crew of the best athletes and performers in the world right here. And it starts off through high school and then college, and then all the progression that they do and the searching that they do. It's just a phenomenal story. So let's go to where we are today, here at USA Volleyball in Anaheim Training Center here. And tell us about coaching the USA men's volleyball team. These are the professional volleyball players. They come train with the USA team, go play professional now, and they just won a bronze medal in the 2016 Brazil Olympics. I mean, so he's got a medal from just a few months ago. So it's fantastic. So congratulations on your medal.
Thanks.
Share the story of coaching, being an assistant coach, earning the respect of these guys that obviously you already have because of your storied career, and mentoring these guys to win a medal in the Olympics.
Yeah, I think it was just a really good fit, because one of the things we talked about, I think I talked about earlier, was when I helped Matt Anderson, squeezing that last little bit out of him. Well, that's just what I just did. And so when I also run a volleyball club, Team Rockstar Volleyball Club, and I'm up in Carson, California, and I teach the younger kids a lot about that stuff. But when it comes to teaching younger kids, I feel like there's a lot of people qualified to do that. And actually sometimes ex-athletes aren't the best at it because you're either really natural at the sport, or you've just taken it so far that just teaching the basics isn't always that easy.
Right.
So sometimes someone coaching like a younger athlete the basics of the game, sometimes
it's challenging.
Yeah, I mean it's a different thing. I've done that for a long time. I did that. I've done it, so I know how to do that. But in general, a lot of pro athletes can struggle with that. But what a lot of people aren't qualified to do is able to, I think, relate that journey that those guys are going on right now, which is a lot of pressure on them. When you're going to the Olympics, You know, you want to win a gold medal, the pressures of that.
Oh.
When you go, all these athletes go and play in other countries, and when you're an American on another team in another country, so it's like when Pau Gasol comes and plays for the Lakers, they go, except when they come, well, I guess Pau Gasol is the star of the Lakers, but he wasn't Kobe, right? So you had Kobe to help out. When these guys go, they're supposed to be Kobe when they show up. And so the pressures are great, and it's always your fault when you lose, and when you win, they always pick the kind of the best player, the local guy to give the attention to. So it's a lot. And we also, these guys, one of the things they do, which is incredible, is they go 3 to 4 months with us over the summer. They get like 2 days, and then they go play overseas for a contract, which is 8 to 9 months. It's like a soccer season, September to the end of April. So it's a lot, right? I mean, your body's never feeling good. Some of these guys have been doing this for 8 straight years of nonstop. I mean, you hear about the NBA guys, right? And they complain like one summer of going year round. I don't blame them. I mean, that's a lot. But these guys have been doing this for 8 years. You know, some of them do it all the way through their career. So I've done all that. I've been through all this, and so I think I was in a good state to step in right away and help guide them and share like all these stories. Hey, I met this guy, and this guy helped me do this, and I met this guy, and he helped me do this. And man, like, you know, I blew it at a big point, a big moment on national TV too, you know, and here's what I did to get over it, move on. And so I was in a good spot to kind of to do that. And then because of my club, I've been coaching indoor. Even though I was on the beach, I've been coaching indoor for a while. So I was in that, I kind of had the indoor game down too, and was coaching that. So it was just a good fit, and I was really lucky that the head coach, John Sparrow, really sees things the same way I do. So he gave me a lot of freedom to do a lot of stuff of my own, and yeah, it's been a really, really fun experience, and I'm still getting, even though I'm not playing, I'm still getting to shoot to try to be the best in something, and I never did get to the Olympics as a player, so even though we were so close, ranked 5th in the world, we didn't get to go.
So close.
So to be, I mean, that's like a, you know, that's a look back to me, you know, to be ranked 5th in the world and not get to go to the Olympics is something I'm still not over, will never be over. But I got to go do it as a coach, and it's different, but really cool. And so I, you know, you can imagine I had a lot of motivation when I was there to give the guys everything that I had to put them in a situation. So I'm kind of in the role you were in with me, just of working really hard to find ways to help these guys to be successful. And in the end, you know, we were successful, but I don't know if that would have mattered because we did everything we could to get them there, and I take a lot of pride in that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so fun turning on the TV, watching the Brazil Olympics, and then watching Furby enter the arena with his whole team, with Team USA, and represent our country, because there's no better ambassador for our country than this gentleman right here, Matt Fuerbringer. So, oh my goodness. I mean, so much to go over, so much to talk about. Let's let you guys start to ask Matt some questions, because you're gonna go live with Matt Furbringer, USA men's volleyball assistant coach, the #1 assistant coach now, former standout AVP player, FIV player, the FIVB player. I mean, hey, you might have been 5th in the world, but you've been even closer to top ranked. And when you win a medal at an FIVB event, that's during a world championship season. That's unbelievable. So it's tough to walk into the Olympics, you know, every 4 years and then be ranked, you know, #1 or 2, and you know, and from our side to be able to get there. So, I mean, your track record, your history, your volleyball, it's unbelievable. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Lots of love.
Thanks, man. I look forward to hearing your guys' questions.
But we just went beyond with Matt Furbringer. Stay tuned. You'll get to chat with him December 6th through the 13th. Look for him on the calendar. Thank you for going beyond with us.
Thank you.